Hey, Dearborn. How we doing, Michigan? It's a beautiful day to be inside right now. Hey, do me a favor really quick, a little unorthodox, but turn to the person next to you and say, hey, I'm really glad that you're alive and I'm really glad that you're here right now. Just do that real quick. That's called love and that's called unity, right? We're here for unity, right? We're here to make sure that we value every single person.
Yes.
Every single person.
Love that, love that.
Whether you're a Democrat, whether you're a Republican, whether you're a libertarian, an independent, every single one of us is a child of God. Every single one of us is deserving of being seen and heard and loved and valued.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. Listen, I'm not going to take too much time, but I did want to just give you a little context why Shazam is standing here talking to you about these various things. I grew up in my family, Christian conservative. That was pretty much kind of the lane that we were in. My parents were Kennedy Democrats that then turned into Reagan Republicans. And they taught me to have a healthy level of distrust for the government and a healthy level of distrust for industry that runs amok. And for a long time, I was like, man, I really want to find a politician that represents all of the things that I want and I want to see in a presidential candidate. And this year, I found Bobby Kennedy. And I thought, man, this guy's it. He's the real deal. He's the real deal. And in a perfect world, and whatever that would look like, perhaps I would have voted for Bobby. But we don't live in a perfect world. In fact, we live in a very broken one. We live in a country that has been hijacked by a lot of people who want to take this place way off the cliff. And we're here to stop that, right? We're here to make sure that we are going to take back this country. We are going to make it great again. We are going to make it healthy again. And so I stand with Bobby, and I stand with Tulsi, and I stand with everyone else who is standing with President Trump. Because I do believe that of the two choices that we have, and we only have two, Donald Trump, President Trump, is the man that can get us there. And he's going to get us there because he's going to have the backing and the support and the wisdom and the knowledge and the fight that exists.
We're about to consider somebody seriously for President of the United States who cannot give an interview. And to me, it's shocking. I think my father would be dismayed. My uncle would be dismayed because they love debate. They love conversation. They love the dialogue. And they knew that the best hope for America is in policies that were able to win, be annealed in the furnace of debate, and then float to the top in the marketplace of ideas. And we have a vice president who does not seem to have anything in her head except what the deep state tells her to say and to put there.
But hey, man, I hope everybody is blessed, well, healthy, and that nothing but the best is going on in all you beautiful people's life in this corrupt scam of a matrix, a disgrace that we live in, man. It's an absolute disgrace, you guys, but I want to wish you all nothing but the best of you, your family, your kids, the friends, the neighbors, the strangers around the world, man. One love to the human race. But we're going to also jump into this other segment of the video. Huge shout out to Liberal Hive Mind. I'll leave the original link in the description box down below. And hey, make sure y'all, if you haven't already, hit that like button. As you can see, it's already getting hot and spicy. But hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you are new here. And hey, let's jump straight in, baby.
Fully focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You know what I've noticed over the last couple of days? The conversation once again shifted. You know, it really feels like we're letting the mainstream media, we're letting Democrats control the priorities of this election. We're letting them essentially dictate the conversation. And honestly, it's a typical trap that you fall in. They're constantly engaging in such dishonest and extreme rhetoric, so you find yourself always focused on highlighting their hypocrisies or countering their claims. But we can't let that happen. Now, of course, a little bit's okay, but we gotta find the right balance. We simply cannot let them distract from all the good that's happening. You know, to me, it's crazy that there's any focus on Kamala Harris at all to begin with, considering everything that's happened in this election cycle, from the assassination attempts to the historic potential state flips, the demographic shifts, and then the development of this unity ticket, Donald Trump teaming up with RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, and others to, quote, make America healthy again, to tackle big corporate interest, to actually do what the Democrats pretend they're doing all the time, but they never actually fulfill that promise, I feel like that's probably what we should be focused on, rather than all the orange man bad rhetoric coming from these nutcases in the media. And so let's really focus in on that topic. I got a Joe Rogan clip that's making rounds on X that I want to show you guys. That'll spur the topic of conversation. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so this popped up on my timeline, and it's what inspired this video. Take a look.
One of the things that people are so excited about with this Trump union with Tulsi Gabbard and Robert Kennedy is that you're having these movements that seem to be almost impossible to achieve outside of an outsider, like the Make America Healthy Again concept. Like, what are you talking about? You're going to go up against these companies that have been donating to these political parties forever and have allowed them to have these regulations that are allowing them to have these dyes in food that's illegal in our neighboring Canada? Like, what? No one's done that before, right? So that's very exciting.
Okay, so
to me, that seems like something to be truly excited about. That seems like something that should generate legitimate, authentic excitement. Not this phony Kamala nonsense, this fake, exaggerated, manufactured excitement for a career politician with a pretty abysmal, pretty pathetic record. What's more exciting? The possibility of electing actual anti-establishment candidates, a unity ticket that's making incredible promises on such an important issue such as our health, that or Kamala Harris just simply existing on a stage with Megan Thee Stallion gyrating her booty. What is more exciting to you? I mean, what is more genuine and most importantly,
let it make sense, man. Let it make sense. You just can't make this up, man.
Substantive? I think the answer is clear. Seeing stuff like this gets me freaking excited.
This is what most Americans innocently put into their bodies these days, and most alarmingly, into the bodies of their children. And it's no coincidence that Americans die earlier than Canadians or Germans or Italians or Japanese or Koreans or Australians or most any other comparable country. And it wasn't always that way until the early 1990s. Our life expectancy was the same or better than other developed countries. Then suddenly, more and more Americans began suffering from chronic diseases, from obesity, cancer, diabetes, kidney disease, Alzheimer's, heart disease, and all kinds of autoimmune diseases. Our maternal mortality rate soared to the highest of any developed country on earth. Same with infant mortality. Like the frog in the slowly boiling water, we didn't really notice as we got sicker and sicker. We've grown now to accept chronic disease conditions as normal. But now, in 2024, we're finally waking up to this cataclysm, and we're asking ourselves, how in the world did this happen? A big part of it is our diet. Restaurants that serve contaminated food are fined or shut down. But when it's the government that approves the poisons in our food, a few people get very, very rich, and the toxins end up in every supermarket aisle. Let me show you what I mean. Doritos, Cheez-Its, Cap'n Crunch, gummy bears. Everyone knows that these are junk foods, so maybe you wouldn't be too surprised to see that the ingredients include a lot of poisons, including a harmful yellow dye called tetrazine, or yellow dye number 5. What you may not know is that this dye was originally made out of the sludge that's left over when you turn coal into coke for blast furnaces. It's called coal tar, and I've actually sued many big industries for legacy contamination of coal tar all around the country because it's so toxic and it's so harmful to the environment and human beings. A century ago, it was just an obnoxious industrial byproduct that everybody was trying to figure out ways to get rid of. One of the ways that they did that was by paving roads. But then a British chemist figured out that the coal tar could be used to derive fabric dye. And if fabric dye, why not food? Food manufacturers began using it to cover up the discoloration of low-quality foods that they wanted to pass off on unsuspecting customers. They didn't know back then that this yellow dye, tartrazine, causes tumors, asthma, developmental delays, neurological damage, ADD, ADHD, hormone disruption, gene damage, anxiety, depression, intestinal injuries. Well, we know it now. We've known this for decades. That's why tartrazine is heavily restricted in other countries. In some countries, foods with tartrazine have a warning label that it may cause ADHD in children. Today, it's made from petroleum, not coal tar. Either way, it's crazy to add this to your kid's favorite foods. It doesn't even change the flavor. This yellow dye isn't just in junk food. It's in the foods that we consider healthy. It's in everyday kids' snacks like popcorn, mac and cheese, fruit snacks. It's in sports drinks like Gatorade and so-called vitamin water. It's even added to chicken broth, to corn, to pickles, to mustard, and to yogurt. And so, of course, our kids get sick. And we lovingly feed them chewable vitamins which have, surprise, tartrazine. And so the cycle continues until the coughs and asthma kick in, at which point you go to pick up some cough syrup. And yeah, you guessed it, tartrazine. I've been picking on tartrazine today, but that's just one of at least 100 chemical poisons that our health agencies allow into our children's food. I can make a video just like this to talk about Red 40, BHA, BHD, potassium bromate, chemical after chemical, and on and on and on. If just one of them can cause all of these problems, imagine what they're doing in combination. That has never been studied. If we took all of these chemicals out, our nation would get healthier immediately. We'd have fewer sick days. We'd have better focus. We'd have less anxiety. Our kids would learn more easily. We'd lose weight. We'd have more energy. We'd have fewer tumors and longer lives. It's not all dark. Over the past 16 years, the government has banned 8 chemical additives that cause cancer, genetic damage, asthma, and many of the other health conditions as tartrazine does. And you know what's interesting? All 8 of those crucial steps forward in our kids' health were taken under President Trump. But the Democrats who claim to be all about health care have stood by watching other countries ban these poisons and make our kids sick, asthmatic, hyperactive, and depressed. They left them on every supermarket shelf in America. They even used your tax money to put them in your kids' school lunch. So their big food and their big ag donors probably gave them all that golden handshake and the big money hug. And their big pharma donors probably called them up and thanked them also, because now they're going to make billions selling Adderall, Prozac, and rescue inhalers. Enough is enough. President Trump and I are going to stop the mass poisoning of American children. Together, we're going to make America healthy again.
It's a conversation that needs to be had. Joe Rogan is absolutely right to highlight how refreshing it is to finally see politicians like Trump, RFK Jr., and Tulsi Gabbard take a stand against the grip that big food corporations have on Washington. I mean, it may sound hyperbolic, it may sound extreme, but these companies have been poisoning our food supply for years, as they hide behind massive lobbying efforts to manipulate regulations in their favor. And the fact that we now have politicians that are willing to challenge this corrupted system, well, it's a huge step forward in exposing how deeply compromised the establishment is. I mean, the Democrats, on the other hand, they love to posture as if they care about health and the well-being of the public, particularly children, ooh, the kids, but their actions tell a different story now, don't they? They claim to be champions of healthy living, as seen with Michelle Obama's school lunch initiative. Instead of tackling the real issue at the heart of our food supply, Democrats push emotional appeals to distract from their hypocrisy. They act as though they're the protectors of public health, yet their policies often benefit the very corporations that they claim to oppose. They're in bed with big food, just like they're in bed with big pharma. These corporations are pouring millions into their campaigns, which of course ensures one thing, that Democrats won't actually take these issues seriously. But obviously one thing is clear here, and that's that Trump is a different animal. Trump is different entirely. He's not controlled by these big corporate interests. He's proven that he's willing to go after the establishment, including the food and agricultural sectors that have been untouchable for so long. Something that will never happen with Kamala Harris, because Democrats...
Threat to democracy, a dictator on day one. Racist, Hitler. Yeah.
Democrats are all talk and no walk. The rhetoric may sound good, but when you dig deeper, you see that it's all smoke and mirrors. They've turned a blind eye to the fact that America's obesity epidemic, especially among children, is driven by the same corporate giants who push highly processed additive foods into every corner of the market. And it's always the same hypocrisy. Oh, the rich, down with the rich, tax the rich, eat the rich. But they're the party of the rich. They're the party of Wall Street and Silicon Valley, the party of elite university educated high earners. years. They claim that they're the party that's going to take on Big Pharma, but they're in the freaking pocket. Just look at what happened during the pandemic. Again, the same actors, right? Joe Rogan, RFK Jr., people promoting health, making good personal health decisions, and how important that was to maintaining a strong immune system. I mean, that's quite relevant in the midst of a pandemic, but of course, Democrats didn't want to have that conversation. They just wanted Big Pharma to benefit to the tune of billions. I mean, their hypocrisy on these issues is frankly astounding. Again, they claim to care about public health, yet they've done very little to address the root causes of the obesity crisis, which is directly linked to the toxic, high-processed foods flooding the market thanks to big food corporations. It's so obvious what's happening, and it's so obviously corrupt. They don't want to solve these problems, they want to subsidize these problems. Of course, because when government's involved in subsidizing a problem, government becomes more powerful, and their corporate allies stand to benefit tremendously. I mean, let's have a conversation about universal healthcare, for instance. On the surface, it sounds like a noble goal. Everyone's taken care of, or it's free healthcare, as some people describe it. Totally ridiculous, considering you're likely going to be paying more in taxes for crappier healthcare. But anyways, let's dig deeper into the actual hypocrisy. It becomes clear that Democrats aren't interested in fixing the actual problem. Part of that problem, obviously, is the terrible state of our food supply driving the obesity epidemic, but instead of tackling big food corporations and preventing people from getting sick in the first place, they'd rather expand government and create more government programs to manage the symptoms. Why solve the crisis when you can subsidize it? The healthcare and pharmaceutical industries stand to make billions as more and more Americans fall victim to diet-related diseases like obesity, diabetes, and heart disease, which of course the Democrats want you to subsidize. I don't know about you guys, but just going back to what I said in the intro, it's obvious to me that one side is genuine and the other is not. There's one team, let's call it Team Unity, that's genuinely got me excited. They're talking about things that regular politicians wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. Meanwhile, the other side wants you to be excited simply because Kamala Harris is a black woman, who celebrities seem to be very fond of. I don't know, like I usually say, just make your own opinion. I've stated mine. Anyways,